I was saying that this always makes me want to draw.
Yeah, and I was saying there's some books make me want to draw like I do, and other books make me want to draw exactly like what I'm looking at. When I read this book or any Otomo work, I'm just like, this is what I want. This is what I want it to be. Like, I just need to draw like this. I was actually just I started reading Nadel's Crumb book on the way over here, and I had that same feeling. I was like, I just want to draw like Crumb. I just want to do this. And now, right now, I'm just like, I just want to do this. And actually, I never thought about that, but these styles are not dissimilar. All these like little marks and little hatchings, like
between this and what?
There's some overlap between Crumb and Otomo.
I see some Mobius in this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's not dissimilar. You're right, especially coming from like these pages. But I think every artist goes through this phase where they lock in hatching. Mm-hmm. And like, I get it now. Yeah, everything's hatched.
Yeah,
you just hatch everything.
One thing that's smart about Otomo though is that he leaves the characters a little brighter.
Yeah,
like, so it doesn't turn into soup. Like even this guy stands out amongst
them.
I mean, look at that fucking shot. That's amazing.
So good. I know.
You can you want to like you can feel that surface.
This I feel like is an animator sensibility.
Yes,
it's like you leave the character flat color and not rendered because one, you have to animate it so it's technical.
Yeah, but
two, it makes them pop up from the background.
Mm-hmm. And that's a beautiful pacing pause.
Right.
If someone's on the ground, you don't know where in the whatever you want to call it, the frames. You don't know where in the path of motion they are, but if they're paused in midair, you know exactly that moment.
This is so beautiful. You can take any one of these panels and study it, and to great effect, I imagine. Like, the choices are so well done.
Wait, so what are we looking at here?
This is Ganga.
First of all, this looks like a butt.
Well done. Yes, it does.
Sorry to interrupt you for that important moment.
we bring you the special news bulletin.
This looks like a butt.
Yeah, I'm not sure what this is from, actually.
So this is, I mean, we're talking about artist editions, right? You pulled a bunch of artist editions.
I thought you meant like what story is this art from?
Oh, well, these are early untranslated until now. I mean, as of now, they're untranslated early stories. So you can only get these in Japanese. I have a couple of the books that some of these pages are from in Japanese, but I can't read them, obviously. They're doing Otomo complete works, but I check like every couple weeks. I Google like Otomo complete works in English, and there's no news on doing that in English at all.
It seems like some of this is fairy tale, like Old Man in the Sea. You have like a king.
Yep.
Knights of the Round Table, maybe.
Yeah.
Some of this.
It's almost got like biblical feeling.
Quixote here.
I mean, that is extremely Mobius.
Yeah, but it absolutely. But it certainly has like a Don Quixote kind of feeling to it. This is almost like, I don't know, two characters in the woods. Could be like Hansel and Gretel, or what other darkness that spawned from the Brothers
like
Grimm.
Robinson Crusoe or some like pirate sort of thing.
Yeah. Like Open Sesame, right? Like Alibaba and the 40 Thieves.
Yeah, so
this could be Gulliver.
Yeah, there is an interview in this book that I've never read.
I pulled this first because you had said something that was like really kind of natural about it, which was like, I want to draw like that. And I think today the idea for today's episode was exactly that. It was like, we always want to talk about things that make us want to draw. So I brought out all the books that I have that are artist editions. And I think when I was first starting to get into comics, I kind of went for the Mount Rushmore kind of artist editions, and that's where you have this like Dan Clowes book. I got this from the like Kickstarter or whatever it was.
Book is gigantic. Is that bigger than the Kramer's 7 book?
Okay, so
is this the biggest book you own? Also?
This is the biggest book I own for sure. And when I first mentioned this, or when I first talk about this book with Gabe from Desert Island, he's like, I don't know, it's like a fetish object. He's like, it's as big as a tombstone. Like, who even wants that? And I'm like, hey, Gabe, I love you. But I had gotten it because, when I first, like I said, when I first got back into comics, Dan Clowes or Chris Ware or whomever.
I've never seen this book before.
Yeah, so you get pages with Rubylith in it.
Have you ever used Rubylith?
It's too big for the comic. No, I haven't.
I used Rubylith. I took a screen printing class in college, which I adored, and I would love to do again. But I cut Rubylith for those prints, and you do color separations by like you slice it with an X-Acto knife, but only halfway. It's red and clear. If you slice too hard, you just cut a piece out of the whole thing. But if you slice it just halfway and then you lift up that little, it's incredibly labor intensive.
You're like peeling back.
You're peeling one layer off of
one
the
layer
clear.
Off. Got it.
and it's incredibly labor intensive, and the fact that this is how color separation used to be done is insane.
Right.
But also like such a labor of love. Like it's really meditative and really enjoyable, and it's really precise. Obviously,
he's drawing back into it too, right? So anyone for anyone who's uninitiated, color separations, they used to cut each color out one of each of these sheets like this.
Was it CMYK? I guess?
Yeah, for cyan, yellow, magenta,
or CMY, I guess.
Yeah, because the black would be this scanned or photographed rather from the originals. So, yeah, this artist edition is really interesting because it has these ruby lith.
This was a Kickstarter?
I can't remember if it was just a pre-order or what. This comes from Fantagraphics, so it was probably just a pre-order. But it was a way for me to... This is the size he works at.
I was going to say, these are bigger than 11 by 17.
He works bigger than 11 by 17. He works at this size, which is, I don't know, like 18 by 24 or something.
That makes sense. I mean, using more brush for ATP, I get working bigger.
Yeah.
1,000%.
I feel like I'm of two minds. It's like I like to work in the big because it lets you, really frees you up to have fun and be more expressive and large with your motions. But then you're covering more square footage, so it's like just takes you longer.
It takes so fucking long.
It takes long.
I made the pages bigger, and I'm using like smaller detailed pens, so those last like 10 pages took forever. So look at this beautiful negative space though.
Yeah. This so there's really Ghost World. I mean, I love this style of design. Like, you're not going to be able to see all of it on the camera, but I'll move some.
That's kind of good. I mean, track this book down if you.
Yeah, I mean, you can buy this one off me. It was like $300 or something.
Local pickup only.
You got a lot of title pages for some of the, we just get a good sample of all the stuff that Clowes has done over the years. And here we have Velvet Hand.
Yeah, but it's so nice to see like that line at actual size. You almost lose you lose some of those tiny details when it's reduced so far.
Absolutely.
Especially maybe for back then. I think probably scanning and printing has gotten better now.
I think I got this because Velvet Glove is like one of my favorite comics. It still is.
Yeah.
I just thought it was really strange, and it was unlike anything I'd seen before when I saw it. So seeing it at real size is really informative.
Does it need some white medium around the edge?
Well, that's why the artist editions are so great, because you can see the technique.
Yeah.
You can see that he went in with black, then went and did the white, edge. And then did another layer of black. Like, that's how obsessive he is. He wanted all the black to be even.
Yeah.
I get that. I do that sometimes.
I don't care about streaks in the black on the originals, because it all evens out in the scan.
I know, but it drives me nuts. I like to make sure that I don't have any of that. But really great use of Zipatone, and you can see that this is original Zipatone, where he's cutting it out because it's yellowed. Right, exactly.
This is actually a really nice yellow.
It's like, a nice use of it, yeah.
But even like this is like sort of ugly. It's like a mushy gray. Yeah. But like this is a nice sort of ochre color. I would read a comic that's just black and white in that color.
You heard it here first, folks. Ochre comic.
This is by far my favorite Clowes, for sure.
Yeah, same. And I mean, you can see how much youthful energy he put into this, It's so weird, and it addresses like certain feelings of alienation really well.
Yeah, I think to me this does a better job of capturing that feeling than the more like self-narrative, self-reflective thing. When like he's narrating it, clearly it seems kind of whiny and annoying to me. But when he's able to translate those feelings into something more abstract like this, that is the shit.
I also like the idea of seeking out the kind of weirdness, because in this story he's like interacting with all of those types of personalities that you would like see in magazines where you'd like mail away something and they would send you back a videotape or something. Like he goes into the bathroom and there's like a fortune teller, like this kind of like outsider kind of like culture that was on the fringes of society. Anyway, this is interesting to me. I never noticed this before, but like a paste-in piece of paper for the redo the nose.
I wonder if he had like lines for the side of the nose and was like, those lines are too much, or it needs to be hashed in some way, or lined somewhere.
So we get a nice sampling of like tons of Clowes from all the way through the career, from Velvet Glove to Ghost World.
There's a lot of.
We get some Wilson. We get
a lot of Clowes I haven't read too.
Dan Poussey. We get all kinds of like. Wilson's really interesting because it's just like gripes,
Yeah.
It's just like full on gripe mode.
This is I mean, we don't have to get into it, but like, I feel like the artwork in this stuff is just like infinitely better than in Monica. Like Monica to me feels like the first book, and this feels like it came out now. Like this is so, and maybe he's just trying to strip things down. He's trying new things out, but like This is so much more technically accomplished than anything in that book, which to me feels just like really sloppy and ugly.
I don't know. I think with Clowes, it's like
there's a little scratching in the tree.
I think that the work is so good and so consistently good over the span of all of it that we get the luxury of comparing and contrasting the individual works, and that's a critical luxury.
Sure.
Because he's
that's a nice way to put it.
He's so proficient at what he does, and his work is so compelling and well put together. It's the craft is sublime. Like, we get the luxury of picking it apart. So,
yeah, that's fair.
I mean, like, I have my preferences, but the dude is a G. Like, this stuff is so fun. And
I've never drawn a head this big in my life.
This makes me want to draw.
Yeah.
Like, I look at this, I want to draw.
Couple
little hairs.
You have that on camera? Yeah, just a couple
little tiny little hairs.
Just like 3 on the chin. Like, that's beautiful.
This was my present for
for
doing the pre-order. I got a Dan Clowes autographed Lord
of
the
that
Welland
screen print?
Yeah, it is a screen.
Looks like a screen print. You got a little.
No, I think it's digital.
I don't know, but this looks like where it got stuck to the screen.
No, because there's look at the whiteout and the color. That means this is a digital print.
No, you're right. But maybe it's a print from a screen print, because like this is the kind of effect you get when the paper sticks to the screen a little bit.
Yeah, I think they scanned the screen print maybe, and he's still fixing it. Yeah, you still get the whiteout. Whatever. This is so cool. It's a nice artifact. Really cool. Lloyd Llewellyn's an interesting character. This is the one character that I haven't really read any of. I've pretty much read everything else though.
I think I've only read 8 Ball, Monica, Patience. I didn't like Patience or Monica, so at that point I was kind of like, what? This should just be a poster.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, we can talk about Clowes all day.
What an object.
Look at this monster book. Definitely a fetish object, something definitely worth checking out.
That's a treasure right there.
It's really something. I mean, so, like I was saying, I went Otomo. I had this imported from Japan.
Oh wow! I got this at Bergen Street Books. I walked in. I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And Matt Seneca was like, "Dude, if you're gonna buy one thing like this year,
this
it should
is
be
the
that."
book.
Yeah, and he was right.
I got this from Japan Book Hunter.
Oh hell yeah!
And it came in the original bag with the screen print from the show.
Oh, I didn't get that.
So this is like the monograph from the show of original art.
Yeah. It had an insert. Is that a translation of the interview? I think I may have lost that.
I think so, yeah. So I went, because I was trying to learn. So I went Simon and Kirby, Otomo, Clowes, Steve Rude, George Herriman, Jack Kirby again. I have some Chris Ware under there.
I got that Ware book at Cab. I think that was the last Cab.
This is probably the least well put together book, only because all the scans seem clipped, and it's almost like they were doing their best to just kind of get it all together. I mean, I think it looks wonderful. No, this is Fantagraphics actually.
Oh, really?
Or no, Abrams. Abrams. That's why. So it has a
book people, not comic people.
Book people, not comic people. No, I mean really, book people, not comic people. That's why they're all clipped.
Oh yeah.
And it looks like they're formatted for this, like this.
Right.
Instead of the book being formatted around the art is formatted for the book.
You can imagine someone working on this project was really pushing hard for it to be bigger or the art to be smaller, and somebody else was like, "Nope, it's gotta be." Like you can feel the behind the scenes art direction.
100%. You can feel that tension on the page because of the way it's put together, but you still get these great glimpses into the process. You get amazing covers and kind of like the unknown romance deep cuts, like the westerns and the.
Is this Kirby inking himself, or is this multiple people inking his?
I think it's Simon inking Kirby.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because they worked together. They had a studio together before they ever went to work for the big two.
This is a different Kirby kind of style.
Well, no, I think some of it's Simon drawing as well. Oh. I'm not sure the total division of labor, but I know they were taking turns. Like some of it's Simon, some of it's Kirby. You can tell when it's Kirby. Like this is all Kirby for sure. And actually, I might be wrong about Simon inking him. It could be somebody else. But again, this is the kind of information we don't get from this book. At least not on every page, right? There's probably a little bit of text, right? In the beginning here, they gives you some history. And remember when like art books were all this, and then you get like 4 pages of images,
and the images were all like this big.
Yeah, they're that big, and it's like
you pick up something with a sick cover, and you'd be like, "This book looks dope," and then you flip over, and you're like,
"Oh." And like, why is the art as big as a postage stamp? Like, luckily now we're in a place where it's transitioned from, and this might have been one of the books that helps do that.
I think that was like a graphic design trend where it was like you have a lot of writing, and then you have a lot of negative space on the page, and then they show you a painting that's like 40 feet by 15 feet in a rectangle this big on the page. We're surrounded by all this white space, which like design wise, when you're laying it out, feels kind of nice, but it doesn't do the artwork any justice at all.
I think also it is it's a way to legitimize it because it was like that's how museum catalogs and any museum publication was. It would like feature, and I think also it was practical printing costs because they'd sandwich all the photo prints on different paper in the middle of the book, so it was like they would tuck in a book inside of it, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So Al Williamson's one of my favorite artists. When I saw that Flesk put this book out, I absolutely had to get it.
What's Flesk?
Flesk is just like a guy that publishes these wonderful like art books, and you should check him out because his catalog is really niche, but it's really good.
Interesting.
And
I've never heard of it.
He tracked down all this original Al Williamson art, and you really get a sense of his process here because he like meticulously photo referenced everything when people weren't doing that.
Right.
And I think now like photo reference might be a little passé.
I mean, we've talked about this before.
We
like,
talk about it.
It depends on how you're using it. You know, like if you really need to get a pose that's really tricky, like take a picture. But if you're taking pictures and laying them out in the page and like tracing them, that doesn't feel like comic storytelling.
It's not drawing
to me.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at poses and taking pictures and then you're like studying those, like I don't have any problem with that.
Yeah, I think
Mobius did that too.
I think always the refrain for me is you use the right tool for the job, and it's all about how you use the tool that impacts how I interact with your work.
Yeah.
So there's no wrong way to do anything.
I think
it's just about what the end product is and how it communicates the effect that you want.
Totally. There's a thing that gets lost in photo reference for me where I feel like I can tell instantly because there's a level of detail involved in working from photos where you start to lose the perspective of the artist making the thing. You know, like if you're making something that's based on reality, if you're drawing something that's based on reality from your imagination, the artist is pulling from let's say they're drawing a living room, they're pulling from every living room they've ever seen in their imagination, and they're saying like, oh, I think this couch might look like this angle might look like this, and so it feels like whole cloth coming from the artist's brain, that's the thing that I like. But if you're drawing from a photograph, you're removing the artist's perspective and the artist's experiences from it, and you're just replicating that photograph, which takes something away from something as personal as comic storytelling. Does that make sense?
That's fair, yeah. I think one stip, though, that I would put on that is,
this is nice.
About memory.
Yeah.
Like, I can't remember all the detail I want to include in a living room. So sometimes I'm going to look at a photo because I'm going to go, oh, yeah, look at how they have that little statuette. Or, like, look at how their books are piled. Or, like, look at the clothes that I would have forgotten to draw in a crumpled corner, you know? That's the kind of stuff. And, like, especially with nature scenes, like, if I photo reference, I still want to get to this point where I'm drawing something really graphically. Yeah. But I want to layer in all the stuff like nature has, because it doesn't forget a single thing. You know, down to the cigarette butt and like used condom that would be right there. You know, so, like I mean to say that like this is what I tell the students. I'm like, you live in New York, like there's stuff everywhere. Even the things you ignore as being blank, like a wall, has texture. It has water stains and
what a stud.
You know, just all kinds of stuff. Yeah, cartoonist Hot Boys catalog. Frazetta, Williamson.
Yeah, we should make
Hot
that.
Boys!
Dude, let's make hot cartoonist calendar.
Yeah, that's
like a hunky fireman calendar.
That's what's up. Yeah,
that's a good idea.
Hot cartoonist. I mean, as long as you include everybody, then you're fine.
True.
4,000 months on my calendar.
We could do a 365-day hot cartoonist calendar.
Hot boys.
But yes, I agree. There are things you can't pull from memory because we don't have photographic memories. I certainly do not.
Yeah.
But I guess my hope is that it's like when I talk about figure drawing with people. Like I was talking to Brian Nicholas about this, and he was asking like, do you use like he was like, I know you do a lot of figure drawing. Do you use those poses in your comics? And I said no. Because what I want is to be able to understand. I want to be able to draw the figure so frequently and be able to understand the physiology of it that when I draw a pose, I don't need to look at the pose. So it's like the hope is that you can draw from enough photo reference that you're not looking literally from. It's not like photo here, drawing here. It's like you've accumulated enough detail over time that it's like a visual vocabulary that you can now pull from and drop stuff in.
And that's why I have these types of books, actually, because these images also inform that visual vocabulary.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times we talk about influences within comics, and Mike, you're really great about saying, don't just read comics, go see music, go see theater, go to live drawing, go to figure drawing, and all of that stuff informs your expression and your ability to render and, you know, do composition and stuff. So these books are exactly that. If I look at enough of this stuff, the idea is that I will internalize some of these choices being made and then that will go into my work, kind of like it will just bleed into it naturally. And when I go to draw, then I'll be making cool monsters and stuff too.
Yeah, that's why I think your sketchbook is cool to look at, because you can see those studies, but it still feels like you're drawing. You know, like when you're studying, when you're doing a rip from something, or you're studying how someone drew something, like it feels like you're kind of like absorbing it, but you're not copying it.
Yeah, and that's the idea, I think. Moving from Williamson into EC, because Williamson did a lot of work for EC. So one of the things that I like about this EC, okay, now this is an Artisan edition, right? Okay. Like I would normally say Artisan, but the difference is size for one. So when we look at a traditional artist edition, we're talking about a massively big book, right? And then when we look at the Artisan edition, it's it's smaller.
Sure.
It's easier, kind of more transportable, and you get the same quality of image, but just at a smaller scale.
Yeah.
So
it's still a little bigger than it was printed, though, I think.
Bigger than the original printing for sure, but not as big as some of these other artists.
I mean, like if these are pages from stories, the stories were printed smaller.
Oh, sure, yeah, they were printed smaller than this. The one thing I like about this EC Artisan edition, and you can get these, like they're still out there in the world. They're $40. This IDW, yeah. Also these are $40, so more affordable, right? These are like 100 to 200 sometimes, unless you get a deal like. Because
this was like 75, I think, at Cab.
I got this for like $20 on eBay.
Oh yeah.
Well, because Ware bums everyone out.
True.
And then they're like,
and the books are giant.
And they're like, dude, you be bummed out by this. But whatever.
I love this. We'll get to this book later. Yeah, I think this is like maybe my favorite Chris Ware book, though.
Yes, I like his sketchbooks a lot.
Yes.
The Acme Novelty.
I might like those more. Actually.
I think those are my favorite Ware books, just because I get a sense of how his mind works.
Those are also a bummer, though.
He just does. Well, I don't read his stuff because he bums me out. But I look at all his choices. I really think he's an amazing artist. Like, I think he's brilliant.
He's another guy who's internalizing the world through very realistic observational sketching that doesn't look like his comics at all. Well, we'll get to that in a bit later.
So we'll talk about Ware in a minute. But for now, this is a great sampling of
Ooh, what is this?
Oh, this is a great comic.
Look how slick this is.
Yeah, so this is called Master Race, and it's about this guy who thinks he sees one of his like Nazi tormentors on the train, and he this is
who drew this? This is
I'm gonna be in trouble now because I can't remember it off the top of my head.
You don't have an encyclopedic memory.
No,
are they categorized by
Bernie Krigstein.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we get this the motion and stuff is great, and there's these panels of suspense where the train's coming, and he runs and he's stumbling and chasing, and then we see the character moving by on the train.
Wow, that's beautiful.
I know, it's
that'd
really
be a good T-shirt.
I mean, this is
it didn't have this is Nazi implications.
This is so good. I mean, it really is something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you get Harvey Kurtzman, you get Jack Davis in here.
A lot of black.
You get some Toth in here.
Nice.
There's so many great stories in here. So much interesting cartooning.
Yeah.
That this as a sampler is just great. So
Wally
here's Wally Wood.
Did people think these were scary? I guess there's no way to answer this question, but to me, this stuff is so. I mean, it's beautiful, but it's also silly. Did people pick these up? Maybe kids did, and they were freaked out by them.
No, I think if you think about the consciousness level, meaning what they've been exposed to, I think this horror and suspense in this format, sure, because they haven't had the shit scared out of them by movies yet.
Sure.
So you think of the sophistication of the audience, right? When
otherworldliness.
Yeah, when War of the Worlds came out, everyone ran out of the theater thinking that aliens were actually landing right then. You know what I mean?
How cool is that?
So that's amazing.
I felt like I heard that for the first time when I was 7. I was like, "What? That's the coolest thing I've ever heard."
Or originally it was a radio broadcast, right? But what I'm saying is they ran out of their house after listening to the radio, thinking that aliens were coming down from the sky. So
that was not that long ago.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So yes, I think that when they saw this, they were like, whoa, wow. This is that Williamson, yeah.
So this, I think, is a good example of what you're talking about. These are not real plants, or maybe some of them are, but this takes place on another planet. So he's internalized enough foliage drawing, I would guess, that this is not pulled from a photo. He knows how to draw plants. Maybe this was one plant, or this was something else, but he's cobbling them together for compositional reasons, and also
he seems like the guy that would have gotten a botany kind of naturalist guide and done some of some copying to understand these forms.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, so like this is a great example of seeing like the production and how they just like treated the original art like trash, and they didn't care about the original art, and it was so magnificent.
Yeah.
But you get some process, you get some zipatone, and you get samples from a lot of different artists
these
here.
horizontal lines on the page.
Which? Oh, well, this is for when they would do the lettering.
So
but
it's like it's over the whole thing.
Yeah, they get the pages that are all lined, and then they would just like draw on top of it, and then do their lettering with the lines.
I've been thinking about trying to do some comics on some blue grid paper and like dropping the blue out later. I've never tried to draw on grid paper.
Here's some Toad, Thunderjet. Anyway, you could do worse than picking this up for $40, and if you go to a used book store, you can probably get it cheaper than that.
Oh yeah, or maybe thrift books.
These artisan editions, they do such a good job with it. Like,
what's this little bit of collage? Well, what's this little thing?
Oh yeah, I have no idea.
That's fun.
I don't know.
Actually. Oh, Braille. It's probably Braille.
Oh, okay, sure.
It probably says like, I don't know.
Oh right, because it's Daredevil.
Secret message. Yeah.
Well, it's Daredevil, so
cool.
It's like
yeah.
But one of the
Even
things
though it's not bumpy, it doesn't actually work.
One of the things, well, they do it here too.
That's cool.
So one of the things they're doing here in this book is they have these great like.
Oh yeah! Wow.
They show even in the small artisan edition, they're showing some of the way that they use like vellum, like tracing paper, and to great effect in some of these because like you see how they would like lay in, right? These are blue. This is going to be blue here. So it's like okay, so this is our color separation, but it's going to be blue. So here's the blue. And really interesting.
We did our color episode, and I was trying to think of like ways that would be fun to color. Maybe I'll try some vellum. I never thought about that. I always think of just coloring the actual page. And maybe I'll try to do some vellum later.
Just make sure you put registration marks on it so you can line it up properly.
Yeah. Well, I'll do it digitally.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I mean, I'll scan it and
a great example of like doing the whole toothbrush effect and then going back in and laying in the lettering.
So you don't fuck the lettering.
So you don't mess up the lettering.
Or maybe that was another color.
So like a lot of great choices in here, and I like this book a lot. It was a way for me to access Mazzucchelli's work in an affordable way. I can't buy every.
Oh, this has some pencils in it too.
I don't have the space for every artist edition, nor do I have the budget for it.
See this, I would love to see more of this in these artist editions. I love seeing the inks and the finished pages, but I would love to see the preliminary sketches too, because I'm always trying to make my pencils less detailed.
Yeah,
and seeing something like this is really inspiring to be like, oh, you can just lay it in, and the real drawing is the inking part.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really hard to teach students that. They don't understand. I'm like,
yeah,
you don't have to draw it this well.
Right.
You can just draw it like this, and then go in and figure it out.
Oh wow.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff in here.
Lapham is clearly a Mazzucchelli fan. That looks like a Dave Lapham drawing.
For sure. I think Mazzucchelli has spawned a whole school of artists.
Oh yeah, for better or for worse. There's some very
like,
bad Mazzucchelli keepers out there. I don't want to say bad, but they're not to my taste.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, so these IDW artisan editions, there's like I don't know, maybe a dozen different artists. I have about a half dozen, but I brought these out to show.
Those are sick.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Two
of my favorite Marvel artists. One is John Buscema, and the other is Jack Kirby.
Right, I think. So this is a blown up version of a page. This is seeing this even bigger than it was probably drawn. Maybe.
I don't know. I think that image exists inside of this artist edition. There are a couple things that they're doing in this book that they haven't done in other ones, which that's so sick.
So sweet.
One of the things they do in this book, which they didn't do in other books, is centerfold.
Whoa!
So you get to see the covers like super huge.
No way we can get this all on the camera, but
yeah.
So you can see it. This is about 4 feet long.
Well, we can get one at a time. Here, pull this back. Yeah, we can get that on there. Look at that.
That is amazing. This is Clowes size, I think.
Yeah, right. 18 by 24. I mean, it says 6 by 10.5, so maybe that's what it's going to print.
Correct.
That's comic size, right? 15 sixteenths by 10.5. I mean, I don't know. Now it's 10.25, right? Like that. 6.65.
Is there even a standard size anymore? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think there's a standard size.
Paul Pope works, I think, at least this size, maybe bigger.
I mean, when you see this with all the whiteout and stuff, you realize, like, and the paste ups, like this guy's pasted in.
Yeah.
You realize, like, it's not precious. You just hack at it, and, like, paste it in and fix it until it's where you want it to be. Like, you can't make a mistake.
And I was going to say, too, it seems counterintuitive. It seems like when the page is bigger, you'll notice all the lines. But the lines become less precious when the page is bigger because it's like, A, you know it's going to be reduced, and B, you can always get more stuff in there. So like if the page is really small, like when I draw on a really small size, every line matters hugely to me because you got to be really careful. When there's extra space to breathe like this, maybe I'll try one like short story at this size just out of curiosity.
It'd be fun, even if you did just like a couple pages. Like just start with like a 4-page story or something and see how you like it.
Out of curiosity.
You know, I got this Buscema because like, you know how they say like, I heard Lorne Michaels say that if you ask someone who their favorite SNL cast is,
you'll know when they went to middle school.
Yeah, it's always the one that was when they were an adolescent.
Yeah. And
I feel like the same is true of comics. Like your favorite comic book artist is who you attribute with comics, like whose art is synonymous with a house style that you first encountered in that magic period when you were like, oh my god, look at comics.
Yeah.
And for me, I was too young for Kirby, so for me it was Buscema. These were the comics I was getting.
Yeah.
And now I realize the influence Kirby has on Buscema. Don't get me wrong. I don't mean to say Buscema is better than Kirby or anything like that. There's no ranking for me. I'm just saying like, this was the guy who, when I first discovered comics, I was looking at his
You're
art.
like, this is what comics look like.
This is what comics
What
are.
comics should
and
look
I think
like, yeah.
largely in part because of that How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, which he drew.
Yeah.
To me, that like gelled it in my brain. Like I'm like, Marvel Comics is this, right? And so when I look at this, I had to get this book because I was just like, this is so sick.
I mean, it's also
so
awesome.
like, it's also just amazing, right?
Yeah. I love how few panels are on these. Like I'm jamming my pages full of panels. That's
jamming
nice.
on your panels.
I've been jamming on panels. It's kind of nice sometimes. I mean, I think for me this is a little too much text for the work that I make. I like this looks great and it reads great, but for the stuff that I make, it's too much text. But I like the idea of reducing the panel count on here.
So when we look at this stuff, you can see a kind of a departure from Kirby
Scump,
and it's like morphing into more of like a house style for sure. He's like taking Kirby's stuff and making it more commercial or something. It's like Kirby's one of my favorites all time. Like, what am I even saying? Like everybody knows that Kirby's the best.
Okay, what else can you say?
What can you say about Kirby
Kirby
that hasn't been said? It's not the point of this.
I mean,
what I'm trying to say is that I was too young for Kirby. That was like my dad's generation. So I got Buscema. And what I am doing is looking at the comparison. Like, Kirby's so good.
Like, so I didn't read any Jack Kirby comics till I was probably in my 30s.
Also, he invented Spawn.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got that on the record. Kirby invented Spawn.
Kirby was always one of those names when I was a kid. I was reading like Jim Lee comics and Image comics and stuff, and Kirby was like, I don't know what this name is. I don't know who this person is, and I don't think I really understood his like place in the lineage and the lore of comic storytelling until I was probably well into my 30s. And even then, I was like, okay, now I'm interested. Where do I start? What do I do? How do I get this stuff? And this stuff has now been pretty well reprinted, I think, in a lot of places. But I brought that up because Early Bird has some cool starter packs for different artists. So if you're like, I want some Kirby comics and I don't know where to start, you can go check his stuff out.
I bought that.
Oh, you did?
Kirby starter
Well,
pack.
there's other artists there too. So
I know. And
not
he'll probably
Kirby,
replenish.
But I think that's a really valuable curatorial thing for people who want to get into this stuff. Because like you hear these names floating around. Even if you're super into comics like I've been for such a long time, Kirby was such a blank spot for me. Same way as like the Hernandez brothers are. Like how do I buy all the Hernandez brothers stuff? What should I read first? It's like, it's nice to have people kind of like giving you these guideposts or these like entry points. I think there should be more of that. I love this collage. Kirby's collage stuff is some of my favorite stuff.
Totally. And the painted, like his painting the color with the dyes.
I have two of the fourth world books that has a lot of collage.
This is the kind of stuff this is like the album fold out. You know, it's like you don't get it unless you have the vinyl. This is kind of like what these things are good for.
So
it's like
awesome.
These like you get a page of his pencils and you see like how intense the pencil was. Like this lead, he's probably working with like a 4H or something. Because
I would think softer than that. Maybe
look at how dirty it is.
I would think a 4B maybe, like a heavy B.
Oh, I'm sorry, I meant 4B. Yeah, 4B. But you know, it could be whatever. I don't actually know.
4B or not 4B.
Exactly. I meant to say B.
I know.
B. More pencils. Great. Like his like postcards that he'd give people. Oh my god, I'm never gonna be able to put this.
This is like a puzzle. Wait, what's the other collage? I want to see something.
Oh, this is
just
like
a painting.
Wonder Boy or whomever. I don't know. I don't know who it is.
Close enough.
Yeah, I mean it looks just like that.
Sorry,
guy.
hang on. Pick a character name that's probably
Yeah, I mean Molecule Man or who knows.
Blue jumper.
Yeah, purple pants. But really cool stuff. Great M papers. Well considered.
Yeah, these are.
And
it's like going to a museum in a book. Like it's
pretty much
like visiting.
Yeah.
I mean, anytime the first time I ever went to New York Comic Con, I was like, this place sucks. I don't know what I'm doing here. But I hung out at the what is that guy's name? There's a Heritage Auctions.
Heritage Auctions, yeah.
Anyway, there's a couple tables that had binders of this stuff, and I spent 3 hours there probably looking through all these things. That was the first time I had ever looked at these things up close, and it's like it's one of those things that expands your mind spectrum of perception.
Mind Spectrum.
That was an informative moment.
That's a good name for a character, Mind Spectrum.
Mind Spectrum.
We looked at these already, so yeah. I mean, I wanted to get something. This was like I had earned like $100 teaching a class or something, and I was like, that class was terrible. I was like, well, the class was terrible. It was so like it was such an awful experience that I was like, I'm going to use the money to buy something I wouldn't normally buy. Totally for me, not totally impractical. Yeah. And so I went to Desert Island and I bought this off Gabe, and he was stoked. He was like, yes, take this giant thing out of my shop.
Out of my small square footage retail store.
One of my other favorite artists, like of all time, there's two more that I have.
Steve Rude the Dude.
But this shows pages in color and
nice.
In black and white.
This is like the Watterson book, Calvin Hobbes book.
Yeah. And Steve Rude is one of the best.
I've never read a Steve Rude comic, but I love this artwork.
I also love Nexus. Nexus is one of my favorite comics, so
suck on that.
I mean,
Jam.
Can you even...
Wait, VAM?
It's like, what is it? Printed on a parking receipt?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it says.
Oh, that's... Yeah, what is that? No, this must be... This was for a publisher. It says title, issue, page. Yeah. But he just drew right over it. That's cool. Is this a painting?
Yeah, he loves... This? Yeah, he paints as well. He does a lot of painting, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
Suck it, Alex Ross.
That was Mike.
Wow, these pencils.
Look at his rocket. His rocket dick. We'll bleep the name out. These are wonderful, and a lot of pencils too, which is great.
Yeah,
look at that profile.
All right, so these pencils are really tight.
Yeah.
No wonder his stuff is so slick. Like these pencils are super mega tight.
Yeah, if I penciled like this, I would just print the pencils. I wouldn't even bother with it.
Yeah, well, I think that's what Quaitale started doing. He was like, I'm just gonna render the shit out of the pencils, and then
I'm
bump
done.
Bump up that threshold.
Yeah, exactly. Just threshold it.
Posterize, baby.
Yeah, that's right. So this is a great book. I love this.
Tell us about Nexus. I don't know anything about Nexus.
Nexus is he's a bounty hunter, but his power comes from an alien source.
I like that he's unshaven.
And he's not always, but his power comes from an alien source, and his targets come through dreams. So he travels through the universe and essentially assassinates like mostly political leaders that are responsible for genocides.
That rules.
Yeah.
We need a Nexus now.
Yeah, we do. Nexus, come to Earth.
Nexus, save us.
Rid us of the slop that exists here. So this dude gives him his powers, but it comes with a price. He has these nightmares about...
It's a cool idea.
It's great. And the comic reads really well. His actual name is Horatio Hellpop.
Get the fuck out of here.
Which is a great name. For a character. Horatio Hellpop. All right, so I have a bunch of these George Herriman, Krazy, and Ignatz books where they serialize all the Crazy Cat strips. Like you get every one. Yeah. This is the period from 25 to 27.
Yeah, these books are tough because I feel like there's a lot of different looking books that chronicle different time periods.
Yes.
Like it's hard to find like one single row.
That's this.
Okay, cool.
So these all come in the same format. So I wasn't going to show all of them that I have, but I have the 4 that Fantagraphics put out. And if they have more, I'm not aware of it, but 16 to 18, 19 to 21, 22 to 24, and 25 to 27. So you can really take your pick. They're all the same size. They're wonderfully designed. They fell off my shelf at one time. I don't think you really are a collector unless you've overloaded a shelf and it's fallen to the ground to your dismay. But I just said, well, I'm never going to sell these books, so they're always going to be mine. These are like scans, I think, of the strips that were in the paper. Okay. So I was just talking
good though.
I was just talking to somebody yesterday about Herriman, and they were like, "Who's your favorite cartoonist?" And I was like, the first name that popped into my mind was Herriman.
The Herriman biography is supposed to be really good.
And they go, "Who's George Herriman?" And I go, "Oh, Crazy Cat and Ignatz Mouse." And he goes, what was his response? He said something funny. He goes,
"Is there a movie?"
No, he said, "Oh, like Tom and Jerry." But like he named another. He's like, oh, like Itchy and Scratchy, and I go, well, yeah, actually, all cat and mouse stuff comes from this. Like all cat and mouse cartoons spawn from Krazy and Ignatz, and he was like, really? And I was like, yeah. And we started talking about Herriman and his kind of like very unique life path, you know.
I don't know much about the guy, but I have picked up that biography a couple times and thought about checking it out as an entry point to the stuff.
One of the cool things about Krazy and Ignatz is that it deals a lot with identity. So the characters' genders change, their like identities change, and there's a lot of theory that has been kind of like projected onto it, where like there's Officer Pup, there's Krazy Cat, and there's Ignatz. Krazy Cat loves Ignatz the mouse. Officer Pup loves Krazy Cat, and Ignatz the mouse loves the brick. And so it's like this idea that Ignatz is like chaos. He's always throwing the brick at Krazy Cat and hitting him in the head with the brick. And Krazy Cat thinks it's because he loves him. So he turns around and is like, Ignatz the mouse. And it's all done in this wonderful cadence where it's this kind of like his own language. It's like a patois of like different regional dialects.
Yeah, it's kind of phonetic sometimes.
Yeah, it has like influences from Creole and Southwest and Yiddish.
Where is he from?
I think he was born in New Orleans and then lived throughout the Southwest and spent some time in New York as well. I could be wrong. I'm not like a scholar on Herriman. I'm just a student.
It might be fun to read that book.
But these things are great, and I have my partner read them to me. Like, this is our like bedtime reading.
Yeah,
we'll like
really cute.
read a strip because it's like adorable to hear someone like say fur away. Gee whiz, I'm sorry about that. Fur away, hey. You know, it's like it becomes like spoken word. You know, like there is a happy land. You know, like it's just the writing is so brilliant. And you know who turned me on to this was Watterson. Because I read an interview with Watterson and they were like, well, who are your influences? And he goes, without a doubt, it's George Herriman 100% all the way. And I was like, George Herriman, who's that?
Yeah.
You know, so then I tracked it down and like with most authors, they will tell you where to go. If you like an author, they're going to mention the authors they like in their work. Yeah. So just like track down interviews with people you like and you will find what has inspired them. And you can see that language. It's like, we talked about this, like, all of humanity is a tapestry. You find the area you like and you continue weaving where the other person left off. That's all it is. And that's where you see all this influence come in. Yeah. Herriman basically invents how to cartoon for newspaper strips, and then all of the other all of the other cartoonists that come afterwards are like a derivation of him. You know, like there's Garfield right there. You know what I mean? Like it's not like it's all here. You know, so there is this like simplicity of form, but like most artists like a Harold Gray or whomever, like it's so deep and rich. Once you start to take it apart, you learn so much. Anyway, so yeah, like this episode could be like no duh. It's like Clowes and Herriman,
stitching it all together,
and Chris Ware and Winsor McKay over here.
But I think it's interesting to. I mean, it's still a wide range of of influences. Like we're not just looking at, we could have looked at 20 of these Buscema books or superhero books or whatever. It's interesting to look at all this original art that's kind of coming from the same foundational material, or some of the same foundational material.
And someone who may have inspired Herriman or was an associate contemporary of him was Winsor McKay. Now, there are some like really problematic renderings of people of color in this book. So that exists. That exists throughout this text. There's this character, and that's a thing that is here. Yeah. And in addition to that, they're contributing to the work of cartooning. And I think we saw some of these original pages when we were in the Billy Ireland. Columbus, yeah. They were as big as a refrigerator.
They're massive.
They're so big. They're like as big as this table. They were monstrous. And so there's a lot of cartoonists that would draw influence from Winsor McKay.
Yeah, and the nice thing is you get the influence without the stereotypes. Like, people are not pulling content-wise, they're pulling aesthetics and they're pulling storytelling choices. They're not carrying on this kind of tradition.
Yeah, and I don't know like enough about Winsor McKay to make any kind of comments about it. Sure. Like, I don't know what their stance was. I don't know what, and that's probably, as somebody who is looking at this work and talking about it, it's something that I probably should make myself aware of. Yeah. But this was a book that I got from.
I do think it's important to acknowledge that it exists, though. Like, Tasha. It would be a shame to like for this book to exist without those in it, because
Yeah.
we need to acknowledge the presence of those things in the past so that we can grow from them moving forward.
100%. Yeah, and that's why I'm talking about it directly.
Acknowledge them.
Like, these things exist,
Yeah.
and this is an unfortunate effect of that time period.
Mm-hmm. April chump, April boob.
It's interesting to see these, though. Like, there's some amazing drawing in here, and I wonder, with this architectural stuff, I wonder how much of it was referenced. And you know what?
Some of it might have just been pasted.
When I look at this, I immediately think of Chris Ware.
Like Chicago.
Yeah, the Chicago,
the World's Fair or whatever.
The Chicago architecture.
Oh yeah.
So we get this like
I was thinking the Jimmy Corrigan stuff.
Yeah, we get this same kind of influence throughout the Jimmy Corrigan stuff. And when we look at it side by side, we can see the kind of direct, like that 20s kind of like Art Deco influence with the same verve, you know.
Wait a minute, I haven't looked at this book in a long time. Was Jimmy Corrigan drawn on this size paper and then sliced in half?
It's quite possible.
Huh.
I'm not a Ware expert, but I definitely immediately recognize. Yeah, there's Clowes right there. I definitely recognize his.
We had one of these.
Yeah.
We had one of these at Atomic Books when I worked there a long time ago. It was like in the basement, and I walked in there. I was like, "Holy shit!
I gotta swipe this."
That was huge. It's like 6 feet tall.
No one would notice. You walk out with it. Everyone would notice. So yeah, so this kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. This is exactly what I thought of when I saw this.
Yeah, I never made that connection, but that feels right.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm a fan. We can look through this a little bit. I think this is the last book we have left that we haven't talked about.
I got this at Cab. I think this was the last Cab, and Chris Ware was there. And Gabe screen printed Desert Island on a bunch of like thrift store pillowcases, and that was the bag for the book. So when you bought a book, you got a Desert Island screen printed pillowcase. Probably somewhere.
Yeah.
I'll try to find it and insert it into the episode.
Look at that. Replete with the shelf.
Like felt cinder blocks or whatever.
Cinder blocks. You got your drawing table. You got your music.
Yeah. One thing I love about these books, I know, like we talked about
strips.
We talked about some of this stuff being kind of a bummer, but I do think Ware is an exceptionally good writer. He's extremely articulate, extremely eloquent. Like he's a thinker. Not that other cartoonists are not, but like I think I've said a few times on the show, like I want to see more artists write about their own work. And I love hearing people write like little essays and describe, instead of just being like, here's the time I went to the museum. It's like, this is really insightful stuff. Like if you want to get inside kind of like a person reflecting on their own experiences, it's really well written and just really, really eloquent. And that was the stuff I enjoyed the most about this book. I mean, the images are amazing, but the writing is really sticks with you.
I think that's great. I think you're right. I think it's interesting to see an artist analyze their own work, right? You're kind of always forward making it and pushing it out, but it is important to reflect on why and what you're doing and how it changes over time. Yeah. One of the things I really like about Ware is he is so restless that he's not confined to one medium.
Yeah, so he'd make like key vending machine. Yeah, he'd like make all these comic or something.
He'd make all these really interesting contraptions, which I find awesome. And as somebody like, I want to see more of that because as somebody who like tables. These tables are pretty boring. Like there's scaffolding with a bunch of prints
that are all pink,
and it's just like, I don't know. It doesn't feel like comics to me a lot of the time. You know, but this kind of stuff and like his weird contraptions makes me think of a time where building a thing that you can interact with on the table.
It's really inviting.
Would make it really interesting. Yeah, disarming.
These are huge pages too.
Yeah, so big.
That's Quimby, I guess.
I mean, look at that. If you had this on your table, also like the craftsmanship. Yeah. Wonderful. Like,
I think he said he worked in a wood shop in college, maybe.
That
makes sense. He was able to build all these things with like fancy tools.
That makes sense. Yeah, you can see it, like the molding, like the trim, and the
maybe they were assembled.
The diagrams and stuff are just great.
And like, also like so obsessive.
Old timey like label making and all the antique kind of feel to everything. It like comes packaged with its own dust packet that you can sprinkle on it.
Which is also fascinating because like to hear him talk about it, he's just like, what a waste of time, all these things.
Yeah, what a waste of right.
But for us, we're like, wow, it's so amazing.
This is so cool.
Like, what am I doing with my life?
Sucks. I don't know. I'll go masturbate. Yeah. So like, this is really cool stuff, and it's all this, attention to detail that I think is so fascinating.
These tip-ins in this book are also beautiful.
I just really this stuff makes me want to make stuff, and like when I look at the internet and it's all AI slop everywhere, I'm like, you're never gonna make this kind of thing because you can't. You know, like AI. I mean, like this is human. Like this is art. This is human art made by humans for humans. Like, you know, why can't AI make this? Because it ain't got no soul.
Well, it's also. I mean, that's a much bigger discussion. But obviously, it's like the thing that makes it cool is that it was made by human beings.
Yes, right.
I don't care
it's
what.
Not
it looks
interesting
like.
that it's.
It's not interesting. Like the thing that makes art interesting is singularly the fact that a person made it. That is what makes it cool.
I was just saying that bit about the soul. It's from I Think You Should Leave.
Oh yeah,
where he's talking about the coffin flop.
Yeah. Oh
he's
yeah.
Like, they say I can't show naked dead people on TV, but I say it's okay because they ain't got no soul. Just naked blue butts hitting pavement. Anyway, I love Robinson. He's hilarious.
This book is nice too. The size of this thing is cool because you can't do anything else while you're looking at it. Like
that's right.
A comic or a zine or something.
Oh,
I can read at breakfast while I'm eating oatmeal or something, or like a novel you can read while you're drinking a cup of coffee. This thing I read cover to cover sitting in bed like with my wife. I'm like, I have to be sitting up. It's on my lap. I'm holding this thing. It weighs 10 pounds. Like there's no other way to interact with this while you're doing something else. You have to be solely focused on it. And I wonder if that was part of the impetus of making it so fucking obnoxiously huge is because it's like this thing commands your focus while you're using it.
This is a fucking treasure. Like I'm looking at this and I'm seeing all these notes and I'm seeing every like bit of thinking that goes into this, replete with watercolor and like obsessive drawing and like this kind of cobbling together. And I realize, whereas I might not work to the same end as this person, I kind of obsessively journal and keep scraps of everything as well.
It makes me want to work harder.
I wonder, yeah, right, exactly. Like, look at the quality of this. I mean, like, you know, we like to joke about how the content is depressing, and a lot of times it is kind of a huge bummer. Like, the first few pages of Jimmy Corrigan are like his mom sleeping with some costumed weirdo and being like, "See you later, kid," and it's just like, oh, like daggers.
It's complex though. Like,
yeah,
it's not meant to.
Yes.
I don't think it's meant to make you feel like shit. It's like,
of course not.
It's tapping into a kind of hollow emptiness that
Totally.
doesn't feel good, but is almost universal in like human experience.
Yes, absolutely.
But you got to be in the mood for it.
That's what I mean. It's like I don't mean to take anything away from it when I kind of like quip and joke about it, but you're right. It does speak to the human condition in a really succinct way. But like you said, that's a good way to say it. Is like you have to be in the right mood for it. You have to be in the right mindset. But when you look at how much work goes into this work, and you realize why Chris Ware is appreciated to the degree that he is, because you can't take anything away from it.
Totally. I had like a eureka moment in college. The first time I read Jimmy Corrigan, I was in college. Brian Ralph, my professor, was like, "Oh, maybe you'd like Chris Ware's comics." And I was like, "Oh, interesting." So I picked up Jimmy Corrigan, I think at Atomic Books actually, and it was right around the time that Illustrator had just come out, Adobe Illustrator,
yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, he draws these comics in Illustrator. That's cool. I've never seen anybody make like digital comics before." And then for years, I just assumed that he drew all this stuff with vectors in Illustrator, and then when I don't remember where it was. I discovered somehow that he drew this stuff by hand, and my mind was completely blown apart. Like I cannot fucking believe that a person can be this precise with a brush and this meticulous. Like it's
your whole head explodes.
I don't want to draw like this, but the fact that he can do that, it's like watching someone break a world record or something. It's like I didn't know it was possible to run that fast. I didn't know it was possible to hit a home run that far. Like you're just like, wow, there's more to existence than these limits. Like that blew my mind.
And you know, this is the same type of work that before I was mentioning with Clowes, where it's like it's so good that we have the luxury to pick it apart.
Picking it apart.
You know, and it's like that is why when you talk about the kind of like informally people will say like the Mount Rushmore of cartooning, it's like Ware and Clowes and Spiegelman and Herriman and whomever else that they would include in their personal Mount Rushmore, right? Kirby is mentioned, of course.
And but I think it's not that they're the best; it's that they loom the largest in terms of their
body of work.
They're this into the rest of the world.
I was trying to help, but I was just stepping on it. My bad.
But it's like, you know, it's never
potatoes.
Yeah, there you go.
Shoelace, cotton candy. Like, no, stop talking. That's not what I'm trying to say.
I couldn't think of the word either. I just this.
Yeah, they're thisness.
Out into the comics
world. They're thisness.
Yeah,
this is what is so good. Track yourself. I got this for $20 on a used book site, and then the postman was so mad at me when he had to deliver it.
Because he hit you in the face with it.
It was exactly like bonk. And look, Quibi the mouse doesn't exist without
Crazy
Ignatz the mouse, right? So it's like there's a language here, and it all like here's this Frank King strip, right? He's doing in the style of Gasoline Alley. Like he's a huge fan.
Penis.
Look, what did you say?
Penis. Look, there's Crazy Ignatz.
Thank you. I have one right here. It's quite bulky, but I think it's a carry-on.
I think he does. Doesn't he design some of the Crazy Ignatz books too?
He might.
It was awesome. And the sketchbooks look wildly different from.
Okay, check this out. I found this book in the garbage, and it has a Chip Kid autograph. What? I picked it up and I was like, "Whoa!" So here, Chip Kid is signing his name and then writing it so you know what it says.
But why?
Chip Kid designed it, I think.
Wait, someone else designed Chris Ware's book?
I think so.
That's crazy.
Look at how tiny it is. That's bananas.
This I thought was funny because he's been keeping a daily journal, or at least I think partly. Yeah, I think it's a daily journal, and he does a comic for every day. And he printed them so tiny. Although some of these I think are in the third volume of the sketchbook. I think he ultimately was like, well, maybe I'll print some of these, but they printed it really tiny so that it was illegible even by Chris Ware standards.
It says in here somewhere what Chip Kid's role was. And I'm not
Maybe
seeing
it was this stuff in the beginning.
It could just be he was there for a talk, I have no idea.
Yeah.
But when I'm looking through it now, forgive me if I can't pick it out of this text.
I didn't bring my reading glass.
Magnifying glass to see. But this is what I'm saying. It's so much. It's so dense and compact, and everything is considered. And that I think really makes me want to make stuff. And like you said, it makes me want to be better at it.
Yeah, it shows me that the places that I think are my own limits are arbitrary.
Yeah, exactly. You can just smash it. Make whatever you want to make and dissect every part of the comic.
And follow your impulse. If your idea is a vending machine, make a vending machine. If your idea is a papercraft accordion or whatever that thing was, or a ViewMaster, make that. If you want to make an animation, that's fine. You don't have to label yourself.
Yeah, if you want to make a Herriman knockoff character in your own style, do that. Yeah. Oh, here's the smoke signal. That's cool. Yeah. This is the fold out for the quarter fold that Gabe put out in the book. Look at that. Weaving yourself into history. So Gabe shuts up a shop. He's putting out this, monthly and sometimes whatever quarterly or however many times a year newspaper, and that's been 40 years ago he started that thing. So now it's part of the language of comics.
Jack Black,
JB,
the HBO reception. Where was this from? I wanted to adapt for the last Saturday main music was scored and arranged as a 1970s.
That's cool. Anyway, when you make something and you put it out in the world, it reaches all of humanity, hopefully.
Yeah, and ripples out. I'm curious to see how many people like Chris Ware there are moving forward, because so much of this is a product of not spending all day on the internet. He's famously not on social media.
The dream.
I wonder if this type of person who is able to give this much free time and focus to these projects will even exist much longer. I mean, that I don't know if that's a bad thing. There's plenty of good comes from internet interaction also. I'm not a Luddite in any way, but
I don't know.
I think it's so special to see just that idea of free time. It's I'm sitting around on a Saturday, instead of just being fuck it, I'll turn the TV on and see what's going on. It's no, I want to take that little itch that's in the back of my mind and make fully posable toys with clothes based on my own characters. This is a beautiful impulse that should be nourished.
100%.
And is squashed, I think, a lot of times by passing time.
And this is, I think it's interesting, right? Because we look at our phones all the time, and then whenever I have to wait for something, I'm upset. Mm-hmm. I'm wasting my time all day, and then as soon as I have to wait for something, I'm ugh.
Well, it kills our patience. It sucks our patience and attention span away. I have this poster. I bought that at cool. What's Millionaire Picnic? Was that place in Boston called? A long time ago. And then I was mad that they reused it for, not mad, but so I bet somebody had a thing, and it was Chris Ware is coming to our comic show, and they took this part off, and they were special poster designed by Chris Ware, and it was this, and I was this was already poster,
not allowed.
Yeah.
Shame on you.
shame. But it's cool. I should get
See,
that.
it's never going to change. We're going to still be at our drawing table. It just we'll have bubbles on our head.
Yeah.
This is great. I'm glad we ended with this, actually, because this, I think, is often looked over.
Yeah.
Like, this book, people don't really... I got one for my brother because of how Chicago it is, and my brother's a big Chicago guy. And I don't know how much he looks at it, but I think, hopefully, showing this...
Yeah.
It'll inspire him.
Yeah, I also have a section in my bookshelf where it's like,
dink.
yeah, I have a section on my bookshelf which is like, here's where all the huge books go because I don't know what to do with them, and oftentimes I forget that they're there.
Yeah, same.
And so it's a good inspiration to pull those back out again.
So one thing that I had, which I will say is really useful, I had a tabletop drawing table. It was like a pop-up thing that would rest on your table, and it was like a 45-degree angle because I was trying that out. I draw flat.
Like where the dictionary is at the library.
Well, that's what I ended up using it for. I ended up just putting my big book on it, opening it to a page, and it was such a wonderful like addition to my house because it's art that you can interact with.
Yeah.
And it was an excuse for me to feature a new book and then have it open, and then you'd look through it because it would be there. You'd be there to interact. So you can get one of them, wherever you buy items, you can get one for pretty cheap. It's like $30.
In New York, we don't have the space for coffee tables.
Here's some great figure drawing.
Yeah, these are so nice. And like, if I saw this somewhere out in the wild, I would never be like, oh, it's a Chris Ware drawing. Like, this looks fucking nothing like his cartooning at all. But he's absorbing, like we said earlier, that visual vocabulary. Like, you could imagine this as a small round-headed pose that a character has. And I think that's part of what gives his stiff kind of drawing so much life, is that the poses are believable, even though the characters are stripped out of the most basic elements, because he understands how the figure works.
I was just talking yesterday in class about that exact thing, where it's like, you sometimes draw cartoons, and your appeal to cartoon is because it's an icon, and you can skip over the stuff you don't want to draw or don't feel comfortable drawing. But your cartooning is informed in the extreme by your ability to do realism, so it works both ways. Your cartoons get better as you become a better realist. Your iconography, your ability to strip it down to its most basic, your understanding of it informs your cartooning. So you start because you think cartooning is fun and easy, which it can be, and then you go the other way. So it informs in an inverse way.
Yeah, and that I think is the trap of the photo reference thing, is if you're just looking at photos for every drawing you're doing, you're not accumulating that knowledge. Like, if everything you're drawing comes from a photograph, you're not accumulating the reference points. You're just being like, oh, I'll just take a picture and then draw from the picture, and that to me feels really flat and lifeless.
I think people also think you need to have the whole image in your mind before you start drawing.
Right.
And I was saying, someone asked me, like, do you have this whole picture already in your mind before you start drawing? And I go, absolutely not.
No.
Quite the opposite. In fact, it's about being present and not having any expectations in your mind.
Exploratory.
And just being really present to the line that you're making, which informs the next line you make.
You know how Chris Ware is legit? You see the Kinko's bag in the background.
With the old logo.
Represent.
He probably racked that stuff.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that was great. These are cool. I don't have any of these artist editions or artisan editions, except for the Ware book, and the Ganga book, but that was really fun. It was nice to look at.
We looked at a nice sampling. We had some Herriman here. We have some Steve Root, some Jack Kirby.
George Herriman, the dude.
So, yeah. Some Chris Ware. We looked at Al Williamson, Winsor McKay,
what a spread.
Jack Kirby, John Buscema. We looked at Otomo. We looked at Simon. We looked at all the EC boys, right?
Krazy.
Yeah, and Clowes. I mean, that's a pretty good overview of comics in general, I think.
Yeah.
We could have done worse than this.
Word.
All right, well done, us. Another banger.
Yep.
And we'll see you next time.
Toodaloo.